Good morning, all. I would like to call this meeting to order and welcome everyone this morning. Welcome to all members of council that are joining us in person and virtually, and to our staff who are with us this morning that will provide us facts and information so we can make decisions in the best interest of all of our permanent and seasonal residents. Welcome also to our guests this morning that are joining us, to all members of the public and media who may be in attendance at the meeting. Meetings of council are live streamed on the Township's official website in accordance with the live streaming and virtual participation of meetings policy. Do any members of council have a pecuniary interest to indicate at this time or potential conflict of interest of any agenda item that we have today? I thank you for that. We do have a set of minutes for consideration of the 2nd of December, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder for the approval of these minutes. And that would be Councillor Blake, seconded by Councillor Snoblin, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council hereby adopts the December 2nd, 2025 Council meeting minutes as written. Do we have any questions on these minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Open forum is an opportunity for any members of the public to make any comments that they would care to regarding any agenda item that we have today. And if there's anyone that would like to make any comments at this time, please go to the microphone, indicate your first and last name and the agenda item you would like to address. Seeing none, we will move on to our first delegation under 5.1, and it is a privilege to welcome the CAO from the town of Goderich, Janice Hallahan, and the Worship Mayor Trevor Bazinet, also in attendance this morning, to present to council this morning. Welcome. You'll have 10 minutes for your presentation, and we look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good morning, Mayor McNeil, Deputy Mayor Vanstone, members of ACW Council, and senior staff. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Janice Hallahan, and I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for the town of Goderich. On behalf of the town of Goderich, it is my honor and privilege to present a proposed joint use community use agreement to ACW Council this morning. The town of Goderich has a well-established and valued relationship with the Township of ACW. The town receives a $10,000 annual contribution for recreation support that dates back to the former Township of Colborne, a fire services agreement since 2004, and a reciprocal agreement between ACW, Central Huron, and Goderich to appoint their chief building officials on a casual basis to carry out their assigned duties at such times when the CBO is absent due to vacation. And the Mayor of ACW also advocated for and participated on the Goderich Regional Airport Task Force between October of 2020 and November of 2024. In 2023, Goderich Town Council and staff developed a strategic action plan that identified important goals and priorities and initiatives. Goal 2 of the town's corporate strategic action plan conveyed an open door culture for a welcoming and caring community to make life in Goderich more affordable. Priority Action 2.2E of the Strategic Action Plan identified exploring shared service agreements for recreational, healthcare, social, and recreation programming for seniors with our neighboring municipalities to financially contribute to Goderich-based facilities and amenities. The overall goal is to ensure that the financial burden to run these facilities is not placed solely on Goderich taxpayers. Present state of the town of Goderich is that the town's taxpayers currently support 100% of the operating costs plus all capital and borrowing costs for the following facilities: the Maitland Recreation Centre, the Maitland Valley Medical Centre, the McKay Centre for Seniors Goderich Branch, and the Goderich Regional Airport. Later on in my presentation, I will elaborate further on the Goderich Regional Airport. The town of Goderich cannot continue to provide these facilities and services without having a formal joint use community use agreement with terms and conditions for the collective benefit to ACW residents for the use of the facilities. In 2023, the Township of ACW contributed financially to the Dungannon branch of the McKay Centre for Seniors to deliver 24 hours per week of senior programming. As you're aware, ACW and Huron Kinloss jointly owns 50% of the Lucknow and District Sports Complex, lands and facilities. However, the Township of ACW does not have an indoor pool or a municipal airport. The County of Huron's 2023 Population and Housing Projection Study demonstrates an annual housing growth rate of 1.2% per year. By 2051, ACW's population is anticipated to increase at an annual rate of 1.4%. That's approximately 32 homes per year, a total of 1,000 new homes, which is much higher than the rate of growth experienced between 2011 and 2021, which was 1.2%. The Watson and Associates report demonstrated that by 2051, ACW's population is anticipated to reach approximately 9,200. That number represents approximately 12% of the county's population growth over the forecast horizon. According to MPAC data, there are approximately 2,500 seasonal dwellings in Huron County. These seasonal residents provide positive economic contributions to the local economy through property taxes, spending at local businesses, and hiring local services to perform maintenance and management of those properties. ACW represents the second largest share of this base at 33%, approximately 825 properties. It's very likely that several of these seasonal residents will be patrons of the town of Goderch's Maitland Recreation Centre, the McKay Centre for Seniors, and the Goderch Regional Airport during their time at the properties. The non-resident user data table that is in your packages outlines the percentage of ACW residents that use each facility based on total members or patients. Since 2023, Goderch Town staff have been tracking usage by civic address, not by postal code alone, at these 3 facilities. While these facilities reside in Goderch, in reality, they serve a regional catchment area whereby ACW residents enjoy the physical, social, and mental benefits of these facilities. The next table provides ACW Council with the 2024 operating and 20-year capital forecast to 2046 of the Maitland Recreation Centre, Maitland Valley Medical Centre, and the McKay Centre for Seniors. You will note that there is no value provided for the Maitland Valley Medical Centre for operating expenditures, as the lease rent covers the operating costs, plus provides a small allocation to reserves annually. The next table correlates the ACW residents' facility usage by a percentage proportionate to 2024 operating costs. ACW's total share of the operating cost using those percentages is approximately $225,000. The next table correlates the 2024 capital costs based on ACW residents' facility usage, proportionate to the 20-year capital forecast to 2046, of which ACW's total share of the capital cost is approximately $103,000. You may ask, why doesn't the town of Goderch consider charging a non-resident user fee or surcharge to individuals using the facilities? The main reason for implementing a non-resident user fee is generally to ensure fairness, so that local taxpayers do not fully subsidize services used by our neighboring municipalities' residents. However, a non-resident user fee or surcharge on programs and membership fees is too difficult and cost prohibitive for the town of Goderch to administer or to enforce from their third-party operating authorities at the Maitland Recreation Centre, the McKay Centre for Seniors, and the Maitland Valley Medical Centre. Ontario municipalities are employing joint use or community use agreements as a helpful and creative tool where a municipality financially contributes for infrastructure and services provided by a host municipality. By entering into this financial arrangement, the host municipality is meeting the non-residents' needs by providing the local indoor and outdoor recreational, healthcare, cultural, and economic development amenities that stretches across municipal boundaries, while reducing operation and maintenance costs to the host municipality providing the service. An agreement for the noted facilities meets or surpasses expectations of the community's goals, continues to provide independence on the local matters affecting each community, and provides value for money and coordinates advantages on the issues that transcend municipal boundaries. The town of Goderch proposes a 4-year joint use community use agreement with ACW commencing in 2026 for $72,500. This figure represents 32% of the previously stated $224,569. with the proposed $5,000 increase each year in years 2, 3, and 4. Why request ACW to pay for operating capital costs to the Goderich Regional Airport? ACW residents realize the regional economic and social benefits of the Goderich Regional Airport with Orange, Royal Canadian Air Force, Canadian Coast Guard, and the Ontario Provincial Police operations. Orange utilizes the Goderich Regional Airport an average of 25 flights per year, 2 flights per month. As the county's population grows from interprovincial migration, it has resulted in an increased demand for aviation services at the Goderich Regional Airport. The Town of Goderich respectfully requests ACW Council to build a reserve fund for future capital expenses of the Maitland Recreation Centre, the Maitland Valley Medical Centre, the McKay Centre for Seniors Goderich Branch, and the Goderich Regional Airport with an annual contribution of $108,000. This will result in a steady annual contribution adjusted by inflation rather than funding capital costs as they occur. I'd like to sincerely acknowledge ACW's contribution of $7,000 towards the Maitland Valley Medical Centre and $26,000 towards the Maitland Recreation Centre capital building projects in 2004. Given the significant housing growth has already occurred in ACW and more is in the pipeline, ACW residents will have increased demand expectations for cultural, economic development, healthcare, recreational, social services, and programming for all 4 Goderich facilities. The future of these 4 facilities hinges on a strategic community partnership with ACW coupled with operational and life cycle replacement costs of the assets of the resident they serve. And just in closing, on behalf of the Town of Goderich, I'm profoundly grateful to ACW Council and staff for granting us the opportunity to present today. And I welcome any questions and comments at this time.
Thank you very much, CAO, for your presentation to us, and I will open it up to Council now for any questions or comments of clarification. I will go first to Councillor Miltenberg, followed by Councillor Snowland.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me? Or shall I yell?
Yes, no, we can hear you. Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think, first of all, that was a great presentation. I think this request is a long time coming and a very valid request. Having said that, I have some comments and then I have some questions. First of all, I think the airport should be separate, a separate conversation, because as CA O'Hallahan said, ACW residents agree. And I agree, but I wouldn't say ACW residents agree. And I would hate for that part of the conversation to sink the rest of it. So I'm requesting that they be treated separately. You mentioned that in the past we have contributed, well, you mentioned in 2024, but I know that we've contributed since I've been on to just a few off the top of my head: pickleball courts, Goderich Hospital, the Menacet Bridge, and the McKay Centre. We've already done that. And I, for one, would rather have a structured agreement in place so we're not blindsided every year by, like last year we gave 30-some thousand. Did we know it was coming before that year? No. So I would rather it was structured. Having said that, you also mentioned the Lucknow Joint Rec Center. So yes, we do split the cost, but we also have a voice on the decisions that are made. We don't just give money. We have members of the council on every joint service that we have to not just blindly give money, but to take part of it in our share part. And I mention that because as councillor of ACW, I repeatedly get asked, and this is in mention to the part where Councillor Hallahan mentioned that we should support indoor and outdoor activities. I'm constantly asked, why does ACW have to pay for the boardwalk at the lake? Why aren't we considered in that? And I'm also asked, why isn't there an outdoor rink at the Maitland Rec Center? Because everything is there. They have a great big space that's used for nothing else, and they have the machinery and the staff. So why? And I say, I'm not actually part of that. So I would suggest that should we go forward with this, that we don't blindly give money, that we are offered a seat at the table to talk about ongoing decisions that are being made. I also would suggest that the boardwalk should be part of the conversation. And those are my comments.
Okay, thank you for that. Janice, would you care to respond to any of those comments of Councillor Miltenberg, please?
I thank you very much, Councillor Miltenberg, for your comments, and I've written down a number of the points that you've provided in terms of your comments. We're obviously open to exploring possibilities that support a mutual benefit. You had mentioned about the airport being a separate conversation. We can certainly entertain having that conversation. The intent, obviously, is we'd love to see a more structured agreement. A voice on the board, certainly that's a consideration we can take away from this discussion. That's a parking lot item, I believe, that we can put here on paper today, and we can further have that conversation with staff. The waterfront and boardwalk, I'll certainly take that away and have that conversation with my mayor and council members as well. And the outdoor rink, we do have an outdoor rink that is located at the Victoria Park. For anyone that wants to use it, it is a free service for individuals to use. We certainly encourage anybody to come out and use that facility.
Okay, thank you very much.
I feel necessary to step up here and discuss the outdoor rink. The outdoor rink was established in 2014 at Victoria Park. It's two rinks on the tennis courts at Victoria Park. It's maintained by volunteers. The opportunity to have an outdoor rink at the Maitland Recreation Center, even though it might make sense logistically to some, it actually doesn't make sense. Everything that we have for the outdoor rinks in regards to flooding and all the necessary tools is at Victoria Park. A wide open space over at the Maitland Recreation Center. As you know, if you look at the winter that we've just had, the last 48 hours, it's not easy to maintain outdoor rinks. So we chose Victoria Park because that was the old location years ago when I was a teenager. And I think the volunteers do a great job. And by all means, if anyone from ACW needs more information regarding the outdoor rinks or they would love to volunteer, please reach out to Earl Pennington. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, a follow-up to that. So, Mayor Bezanet, you just perfectly illustrated the problem here. If we're contributing money, we need to be part of that conversation so we understand the answers we're supposed to give. Not we give money and you call the town of Goderich if you have an issue with the outdoor rink. I don't know any of that information, and if we're supporting that decision, then we need to be part of the conversation and support the decision. That's my point. The point that I forgot to make was about the McKay Center. We put in $10,000 because it was a grant from the government. I'm not sure why. I'd have to have a lot more information about supporting a physical building in Goderich that is, I assume you must own that building. We don't own the Dungannon one, and we put $10,000 into senior programming in that. But we also have senior programming at St. Helens, at Kingsbridge, at Ben Miller, and I'm not sure that supporting senior programming in Goderich is in the best interest of ACW. That, to me, needs a lot more discussion and information to explain why your position is what it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Janice, did you have a follow-up?
Sure. Great comment again, Councillor Miltenberg, and I just wanted to indicate that in the 2024 operating costs slide deck, it does demonstrate that 22% of their membership at the McKay Center for Seniors are ACW residents using that facility, and so there is a program and services that are obviously being provided by the McKay Center for Seniors boards, where ACW residents are currently utilizing those programs and services.
Okay, thank you for that. A follow-up, Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, so my question to those numbers, are you including the McKay Center programs that are being run in the Dungannon area? Because they are running them under their umbrella and they're calling it Dungannon McKay Center. So those are the numbers I'm suggesting we need to see more of. I have no doubt that people are using the McKay Center. I'd like to know if they're using them in the Dungannon location, which we're paying for. That's my comment about additional information is needed. And I swear, Mayor McNeil, thank you for your letting me speak, but I am done now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Councillor Snowden, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Again, great presentation, and I concur with much of what Councillor Miltenberg has mentioned. I think with the development in, the proposed development and subdivision in Saltford, the development that has occurred most recently by Park Bridge, not only in Menacet, but also at the Bluffs, and the master servicing plan that we're doing in Port Albert, although I don't think that contributes as much into the town of Goderich in terms of residents using facilities. I do believe that there's some catchment there. So I do agree with Councillor Miltenberg that this is a long time coming, and I think that we've had a great partnership. I do have a few comments as well. The McKay Center, I'm glad you provided those statistics, because when I was looking at that, I thought, I don't think there's that many people that use the McKay Center, but I'm surprised at the number of people that do. And I say that only because I know the Bluffs, which has, about 400 houses, very active community, they have their own recreation center. So I was really quite surprised at that. And, and Lucknow catches a lot of the recreation as well, and the seniors as well. As like Councillor Miltenberg said about, there's programming at Kingsbridge, Ben Miller, St. Helens. So I guess that's a good news item, because it means that we have very active seniors. So that's not a bad news report. I agree with Councillor Miltenberg in terms of perhaps looking and having a conversation about separating the airport out of this. I think that the use of the airport by the residents, if you needed to, for example, if an ACW resident was taken by Orange Ambulance, maybe it's a pay per use sort of thing. I'm not sure if that's a possibility to separate that somehow, but I'm just not sure that the usage percentage from ACW residents is equal to that, although I do recognize the airport is on land in ACW. I do concur with Councillor Miltenberg that if we go forward with a joint agreement, as you've suggested and outlined, ACW Council needs to have a voice at those committee meetings. And I think that's very important. As she mentioned, if we're paying for some of this, we need to have a voice. And we already do have a voice, as you know, on other committees like the Goderich Fire Board and so on. I guess those are my comments. So my question is more about, there are people in Goderich that have seasonal residents. They pay taxes in Goderich, they pay taxes in ACW. So is there something that anybody has thought about, if you're going to propose, a joint agreement? It's almost as if you have two properties in two separate areas, you're paying twice. Is that any consideration, or do you have any comment on that?
I really don't have any comment with respect to that, because when they use the facility, they either are paying for a membership, obviously, at the McKay Center or the Maitland Recreation Center, and they can use those services, obviously, at their leisure. I don't have a comment with respect to that in the Maitland Valley Medical Center as well, for any of those individuals that perhaps go there for visits with nurse practitioner or doctor or anything like that as well. We have explored the whole user pay, user fee, and it was just too cost prohibitive and too difficult to enforce.
Okay, please continue, Councillor Snow.
Short comments. I know it would be difficult to, separate that out, but I guess optically it looks, if you have a cottage in ACW and a home in Goderich, and I mean, the only way that this joint agreement is going to go forward is if we raise taxes, and that means your taxes are getting raised proportionately through this joint agreement, through both your properties.
Okay, thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Vanstone, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm not surprised that this came forward. I've been expecting it for years. But we as a council need to take a look at this and kind of filter it out and come back with our own, I guess, wish towards Goderich, because this isn't going to happen overnight. It'd be great if we did, but it's not going to. So we need to look at it as a council, and we need to filter it out, figure out what we want to do. If we don't want the airport, that's fine. Then we counter proposal
and go back and forth until we come up to with an agreement that we both can live with. So I'd like to see this referred to a special meeting and then to budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hickey, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some comments, I think, maybe a question or two. I'll let you guys see if there is an answer or not. Talking about the rec center, my concern about that is what are we paying into? What is the financial condition of it right now? What is the agreement with the YMCA? I've sat in on some seminars at conferences, and to be honest, getting into agreements with YMCA's is not advised. I just heard that from conferences because of the fall or the breakdown of the cost to the people that join the groups, but then any shortfall falls on the taxpayers, and I think that's the situation you're in right now. So I'd like to know what we're paying into, what's the condition of the facilities, what's the agreement involved with the YMCA, instead of just paying into that agreement blind on that. Do you want to answer anything?
Sure.
Okay.
So what you're paying into obviously is into the overall operating costs of the facility itself. And I've heard today here at the table is that you want to have a voice at that board. And that's what I'm hearing. And as the deputy mayor has indicated, as well as that we want a more formalized agreement, obviously, so that you can have a voice at that table. As far as the YMCA, we've entered into a long-term financial agreement with the YMCA as they offer programs and services, and they have been operating in that facility. It's been a 3P relationship that we've had with the YMCA for approximately 20 years now. And with part of the discussion that we've had with the long-term agreement that we have solidified between the YMCA and the town is that we have key performance indicators that we require from them on a semi-annual basis. We have a recreation advisory committee that the mayor and the deputy mayor of the town of Goderich sit on with the senior leadership team. We meet on a quarterly basis, review overall operations and capital requirements for the facilities. And I believe that they're excellent conversations. They've got a lot of fulsome discussion around that, and the KPIs, the key performance indicators that are provided to us on a semi-annual basis demonstrate the strength, the bench strength that the YMCA does provide to the town of Goderich, to its residents, to the memberships also of the YMCA.
And just to add to that, to Councillor Miltenberg's point about being at the table and having the conversations, I'm sure all ACW councillors may be here of concerns about the facility in Goderich, or complaints for that matter. And I think there's an opportunity to, if we were to enter into this shared cost agreement here, that we could have a member of the ACW council, whether it's the mayor, deputy mayor, whoever, or both, on that advisory board that CEO Hallahan mentioned. It's a good opportunity to make the YMCA staff aware of what's going on or what you're hearing in your community, and also the senior leadership team of the town of Goderich. As some of you might know, we did take over ownership of the ice surface now as a new model of how that operation works. We do own the facility, we always have. The YMCA used to look after the ice surface, but we've taken ownership of that now. Town of Goderich staff do maintain the ice surface.
Okay, please continue, Councillor Hickey.
Two more comment, I think, to start would be about the cross-border for the percentages for the participants, especially at the McKay Center. To follow up on that question, I'd be curious too, do people of Goderich come out to ACW for project or events like Ball and Ben Miller? We pay for upkeep for that diamond. Is there cross-border for that or other services too? So I'd be looking to see what the percentage is cross-border each direction for any programs that are offered. And my last question would be about the airport. The request is $5,000 for the helicopter pad. I see the importance of that. I'm not arguing that at all. Is there a breakdown of why $5,000 was picked? What's the upkeep on a helicopter pad? Because I'm not looking for the whole airport. I agree the helicopter pad's important, but why $5,000 for that pad?
Thank you. CEO?
Great question, and it was just a nominal figure that we figured that was a good starting point, obviously, in terms of having that conversation, because we know we've got continued operating costs of the facility. You know, when we have the snowstorms like we've been experiencing the last several weeks now, is that we need to continue to maintain those runways, have those runways available for those operations of Orange, for OPP, for Hydro One, for our Canadian Coast Guard. Those need to be maintained. And so therefore, the general operating costs associated to that are for the salaries, the benefits for blowing the snow on the runways, but then the overall cost for the runways itself, for the capital replacement is significant. However, we have had a condition assessment that's been done within the last year, and we're looking at probably another 15 to 20 years out of the current runways that we have available in the current condition that they are in. But it was a nominal figure that we were providing as a starting point.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll now defer to Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it's just this another question, because, as I said, we're going to have to look at this as a council. So have you done the same presentation to Central Huron?
Great question, Deputy Mayor. I sincerely appreciate that question. We've actually, the mayor and I have met with the CAO and the mayor, just having a soft conversation with them, and there will be formal presentation that will be made in January as well to Central Huron. We've also met with Blue Water, and we will be making a presentation to Blue Water Council as well.
Okay, thank you. And that's what I've always said, is that we're 3 municipalities, but we're one community. So that's what I'd like to go into this with, that idea in mind, is that, you know, we need to cooperate back and forth. But we also, as Councillor Hickey said, we supply a lot of recreation for trails and whatnot out in our way. So I would like to know, as we go through this, what we give, what you give, and then we'll take it as a council and we'll boil that all down and come up with nice maple syrup. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, I'm going to make a suggestion here. I'm going to say that I 100%, in theory, support a shared agreement. I think that it's a budget item, and I don't make any decisions about budget without a heck of a lot of numbers behind them, and there are no real numbers behind these. They're your calculations, which I haven't seen. I would like to suggest, in keeping with the Deputy Mayor's suggestion, that we come back with a staff report with some initial, if need be, what it's going to affect if we accept it as it is. And I'd like to see the data that supports your numbers. And the $5,000, while I appreciate it's a starting point, I don't budget on starting points. I budget on real numbers. So, and in that staff report, if we need a special meeting, that would be a suggestion of the staff report, and we move forward. But I think this is definitely a huge budget item, and I'd like to see all your calculations, not just the bottom lines. And that's how I'd like to move this forward, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Forster, please.
Oh, thank you, Glenn. That was an excellent presentation. I do agree that something needs to be done, but there was no mention. I'm pretty sure we give the recreation $10,000 every year. I didn't hear that, but. And as for the airport, what does Wingham use? Because that's privately owned now. Do they still use the airport there? I was asking my wife, and she didn't even know the answer to that question.
I'm uncertain.
You're not certain either?
No, because I know that it is privately been operating now by Pathway Aviation for a few years.
Whether they still use that, something I'll ask and I'll find out. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions or comments? I do have a couple, and I do feel that as a council of this municipality, we do have an obligation and responsibility for our residents that utilize the services, whether it is youth at the recreation center or all ages. I do feel we have a responsibility and that encompasses the also the McKay Center. When it comes to the air ambulance, on Saturday I was at a Minnesotong Bridge opening, and the air ambulance was at the airport ready for takeoff at that time. And it kind of hit me a little hard because I think we have a responsibility when people need to use the orange ambulance, it is a very difficult time. And whether, I don't think we should differentiate. We have residents of ACW that utilize the area ambulance, and we will. And there are 2 flights a month on average that leave there. And I think $5,000 a month is very reasonable to support our residents that find themselves in that situation. What would council be agreeable if we asked staff to have a staff report, negotiate a shared agreement with the town of Goderich on this, and come back to council, and we'll have a further discussion on it at that time? Is that a sentiment, Councillor Snowblin, please?
In theory, I agree with you, but I would need to know from the clerk and the CAO if that's enough time for them to come up with a staff report, given the fact that what our councillors here at this table are saying, we want a voice at the table, how that agreement would come out. Are you talking just finances, just dollars, or are you talking about a full agreement? Because I think if it's a whole agreement, I don't think there's enough time before budget, and I'm assuming that staff will want this done before budget, especially the figures part.
Okay, I'll defer to our CAO, please.
Just for council information, we've met already with Goderich. This ask is a lot less than what it was before. So it's been negotiated down considerably, so, because it was up, I think, over $300,000. So this is much reduced. I agree with the part with the recreation. I'm surprised they haven't invited us to the dance a long time ago. The $10,000 I know wasn't cutting the mustard, but again, that's what we had included in the budget each year. I wasn't surprised with that particular part. But with respect to a report coming forward, we can prepare the report, but we'll have to work closely with Goderich because we don't have the finances. And if council wants to know what the finances are with respect to paying a share of the contribution, we'll have to work with Goderich. So if the council wants, we can bring back a report, and the treasurer and myself can work with the town of Goderich staff, but this isn't going to happen overnight. That's a guarantee because with the finances and things like that. And the agreement itself will be a separate issue as far as I'm concerned. I think we need to approve the contribution in principle, and the agreement will fall after that because there'll be lots of legality and things in that agreement that are separate of that. So I think if that's what council wants, we can do that, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Okay, clerk, did you have a comment you'd like to hear to make, please?
Just in terms of process and the agreement, I do agree that, getting this done before any of our budgets is that's ambitious. I would suggest, though, that there is a sentiment of council here that there needs to be something done, and so I think in good confidence, you could take away that there would be an agreement come forward at some point. I also gather the sentiment that this would be for the Maitland Recreation Center, for the McKay Center for Seniors, as well as the clinic at minimum. Also, council involvement in the decision-making process moving forward. And then the other issues, I think this is the way to move forward with this is to direct staff to proceed to negotiate those items with staff, and then that proposal come forward. It doesn't have to come forward in a solid agreement right away, but that proposal of what that means, including the numbers that Mark has suggested, come forward to council. We have a discussion as a council with those numbers and the proposed elements, and then we proceed to have an agreement prepared.
Okay, is that kind of agreeable to council? I'll go first to Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Snowblin. Miltenberg indicated that she is in support of that.
Yeah, that's fine, but I'd like to see council have more input into this because this is a fairly major step for our municipality. So before there's an agreement made, I still think we should have a council meeting and for our input to the staff, and then them bring back this proposal to us. Because without our input, then once the proposal is made, we can change it or do something like that, but it'd be a lot easier to have that information ahead of time. So I'm thinking we should have a council meeting to discuss this and then have the staff bring back a recommendation to us. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, CAO, you'd care for a comment, please?
The staff report isn't locking in anything. It's just bringing up the details and the data to support the numbers, and that would come to a future council meeting. We'd have those discussions at that time.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Snowblin, please.
I agree with Deputy Mayor that I think this warrants a special council meeting where we have that topic of discussion and nothing else. I see this as a fairly large ticket item, and it's an agreement that's a long-term agreement that this council needs to ensure is well in place for a new council or proposed new council that might come in 2026. I am worried that CEO Hallahan has indicated that she's looking to have this this joint agreement finalized in 2026. So I'm assuming that you're looking at the beginning of 2026, but in my mind, it looks like it could be the middle to the end of 2026 by the time we get ink on the paper. So I don't know if that falls in line with your timelines, but if it doesn't, then I think as a council here, we gotta step it up a little bit. And I do believe that this council needs to make this decision well in advance of the election in 2026 so that we don't leave a new council with this agreement to be done. I think it's only fair that it's the current council that does this.
Yeah, thank you for those sentiments. CEO Hallahan, please.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. It was the 4-year agreement that I mentioned is intentional, so that it is reviewed every term of council. And, you know, we're here to continue having those conversations with council, with ACW council and with staff, that comes forward with an agreement that is mutually beneficial for all parties concerned.
Okay, Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, so based on what everyone said, I'm going to revisit what I think we should do going forward. I do think that the staff report needs to come first, because then at least we know what we're arguing about or discussing. I think that we could bring that staff report to a special meeting. I agree that we should try to get this done. Having said that, this should have been done 20 years ago as far as I'm concerned, and lack of planning doesn't make a state of emergency for me. I still need to make sure everything's done correctly and done to the best interest of ACW residents. We'll do it at post haste, but I'm not going to do it too quickly because it suits the town of Goderich, and I do not mean to be rude to the town of Goderich, but I'm saying it's going to take as long as it takes, and we'll try our best. But in spirit, we all support this agreement, but the numbers have to be correct. And so my suggestion, again, is to be that staff come up with a report, working with the town of Goderich, and sounds like they could get that by an early January special meeting, and maybe we'll agree with everything. I think that Florence very accurately stated exactly what we all said, and that staff can keep that in mind when they say to the town of Goderich, okay, how can you work with this sentiment? And then the town of Goderich says, well, we could do this, and then that is what should come to a special meeting where we say, okay, yes or no. Like, it would take a lot less time for us to discuss it if we knew what both staff thought was reasonable. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. And I concur. I think that is council in agreement to ask our staff to have a discussion with the town of Goderich, bring back a proposed document for our consideration at a special meeting that would include representation on those financial responsibilities. CAO first.
Not a proposed, what did you say? That's,
Bring back a staff report.
yes, not a, yeah.
Right, okay. That is the direction I'm going to ask council if you'll support, and I will ask for a show of hands of that. And that's supported by council. Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. We look forward to continued conversation.
And thank you to ACW Council for having us today and listening, and we look forward to working with you in the future as well.
Thank you very much. We have a great working relationship between the town of Goderich and ACW on so many fronts. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. With that, we'll move on to 5.2, and that is a delegation from the Sunset Community Foundation regarding the fund proposal, and I would welcome Mr. Mike Nicholas to make his presentation to council at this time. Welcome, Mr. Nicholas.
Thank you, Mayor McNeil. Just wait for a second for slides to go up. I believe you all have a copy of this in your agenda package as well. So, good morning, and thank you, Council, for providing us with the opportunity to present some background information and benefits of the Sunset Community Foundation. My name is Mike Nicholas, and I am a director of the foundation. I am specifically charged with the responsibility of developing an initiative to support nonprofit and charitable organizations in ACW under the umbrella of the Sunset Community Foundation. Joining me today from the foundation are Jim Lynn, a director of the foundation, and Lisa Riom, the executive director. We have a brief 10-minute slide presentation providing a high-level overview of the Sunset Community Foundation and the role it plays in our local communities and how it can successfully position itself as a philanthropic organization within ACW. What we aim to convey is our interest and conviction for creating local community vitality. Today we offer how to do that through the lens of a community foundation. Simply put, we want to ensure that you have an appreciation of our perspective on supporting sustainable community vitality. We believe that it is at the local level where impactful change can occur. We also believe sustained impact happens best with partnership, collaboration, and building capacity in organizations already invested in local programming. We don't believe in recreating the wheel, but we do offer a mechanism to support initiatives and programming for the near, medium, and long term. Finally, while the roots of the Sunset Community Foundation are founded in Lambton Shores, we are committed to serve the entirety of Huron County, with the key premise being local influence and identity through a regional community advisory committee structure. Perhaps we start with the question, what is a community foundation? We are one of 208 community foundations in Canada and fall under the umbrella of the Community Foundations of Canada, which has approximately $6.4 billion of total assets. In southwestern Ontario, we have the London Community Foundation and also foundations in Stratford, Sarnia, and Grey Bruce. The Sunset Community Foundation has endowment funds that have grown to $3.9 million in our 25 years of existence, which began with the original investment of the revenue generated by the sale of the Public Utilities Commission in Grand Bend. Since that time, we have granted $2.4 million from the earnings, all the while preserving and growing the invested capital. Because we are a member of the Community Foundations of Canada, we also have a mechanism for distributing federal and provincial flow-through dollars similar to other community foundations and the United Way. The foundation recently adopted a significant shift in our structure to better emphasize the critical need for local and direct input to activities and how to direct the proceeds of the funds raised. While this is a rather busy slide, the role of the Sunset Board at the top is what you would expect: establishing strategy, developing appropriate policies, ensuring compliance, and good governance. Each connecting bubble represents the community advisory committees in the various areas or initiatives: Grand Bend, South Huron, Bayfield, the Huron Entrepreneur Fund, and of course the ACW Advisory Committee, which is now in the early stages of development. Within each committee, there is a board advocate who is a director of the Sunset Board, but the committee would be chaired by a member of that committee who has strong ties to the local community and a passion for developing funds for the community. Our focus areas are all about local impact. In the spirit of all Canadian community foundations, we are relentlessly pursuing a future where everyone belongs, as highlighted by the third bullet point: diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Community vitality means different things to many. It depends on your perspective, your needs, your hopes for next generations. Together, we aim to partner and collaborate with organizations and municipalities to better understand the core needs and issues. We all bring important voices to the table. And again, we are exploring how to interact and collaborate with other well-established foundations and organizations moving forward, so that we are not competing for the same funding. Here are some examples of recent grants we have made in serving ACW and the surrounding area. We have also supported strong regional agencies such as Rural Response for Healthy Children, a part of the Gateway Center for Excellence in Rural Health, and the Alexandra Marine and General Hospital Foundation. A real-life example of municipal involvement with the Sunset Community Foundation, and one that we are very proud of, is the South Huron Vitality Fund. It is a model that we hope that ACW Township Council would consider as it prepares its budget for 2026. South Huron Vitality Fund was created in 2019. The forward-thinking leadership of the municipality of South Huron directed the municipality's budgeted funds for non-profit and charitable organizations to a long-term endowment fund for philanthropic areas of impact. The fund began with an initial commitment of $50,000 per year for 3 years. We recently presented an ask to Council for an additional $25,000 to increase the capital base within the fund. While their final decision is still pending, we are very optimistic for a positive response. The fund has a separate advisory committee with engaged representatives from South Huron who can address local needs. The South Huron Vitality Fund also includes several donor-advised funds and scholarships that participate and grow their endowment. This is the model for future growth. This is what we see occurring in other municipalities, designating an endowment under the Sunset Community Foundation that can generate sustainable funding for local needs rather than granting from an annual operating budget. It is acknowledged by South Huron that the Sunset Community Foundation alleviates the administrative burden of the granting process with a mechanism which is extremely cost-effective. We have included in our presentation slides a recommendation letter from Mayor George Finch of South Huron. The Vitality Fund also created an attachment point for many family funds, and our overall South Huron Community Fund is now a 50-50 split between the municipal and the family funds. This slide identifies all of the fund models operating with the Sunset Community Foundation, although in this presentation I have only focused on the Municipal Vitality Fund as exemplified by the South Huron model. We are grateful to ACW Council for allowing us to present the opportunity for engagement with the Sunset Community Foundation. What we have presented today is an introduction to what a community foundation can do and how the Sunset Community Foundation can partner locally in ACW to affect community vitality. Our offer is to partner with ACW to create a model that will support community organizations for the long term, a model that provides a platform for new fund development, for philanthropic-minded ACW residents, and encourage collaboration and also sustainable community vitality. Our ask is that Council consider the creation of this model with a multi-year commitment of $50,000 per year, which would provide the initial capital base for annual endowments to support local groups and nonprofit organizations. We believe this model reduces the burden on Council and staff regarding the requests for financial support. It takes the politics out of the granting process and puts the decision-making in the hands of ACW residents, who would be the core of the ACW Advisory Committee. We offer our assistance to ACW staff to provide whatever resources and information that they may require to prepare a report and recommendation to Council for your thoughtful consideration during your budget deliberations. And with that, I'll conclude my remarks, and I again thank you for your attention and pleased to answer any questions or take any comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nicholas, and I will now open it up to members of Council for questions or comments on this. I will go first to Councillor Snoblin and then Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mike, for your presentation. I'll share with Council that I did attend your presentation at the Kingsbridge Center.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt for just a second? Can you stop sharing your screen? Because that's all I can see here. Thank you.
As I was saying, I'll share with Council that I was at a meeting that you held at the Kingsbridge Center. It was back a few months ago, I don't remember exactly when, but you had given a more detailed outline of how this would benefit ACW. In terms of currently the way we grant to different organizations within ACW is we settle that usually at budget time, and we have a process where organizations apply for the funding, and we go through each application, and we determine what amount we're willing to give, what we can give, or whether they're eligible to be granted anything from our budget. And I believe the conversation that evening revolved around how ACW would have a voice on this community foundation, if I'm not mistaken. But could you go into maybe a little bit more depth on how that looks
Sure.
optically for council, and who would be on that committee, and how the decisions are made, and as you mentioned, how you take the politics out of this?
Sure. I would refer you back to the slide where we had the various bubbles, where we had the board of directors for the Sunset Community Foundation at the top, and then there were connecting bubbles to that with the various advisory committees that exist within the organization. So if we were to focus only on the ACW bubble, if you will, which, as I mentioned in my presentation, is in the very early stages of development. There is no committee per se, but the structure is in place to allow for a committee. So we would need to populate that committee with community members from ACW, and that committee itself would then decide who the chair of that committee would be. As the Sunset Community Foundation director responsible for that particular committee, I would be involved with the committee, but I would not chair that committee. I would be the conduit from that committee to the Sunset Community Foundation board. Again, once we get to the stage of granting funds, and again, it requires a capital base initially. That's why the ask for the funding. Again, just to cut across for a second, we look at the South Huron model, the investments that they have made initially, as far as the total capital invested, they were roughly, their contributions have been around $175,000. However, the capital base, just because of growth within the market and everything, is now sitting at about $186,000. That generates income, and as a result of that pool of money, that equity that exists within that fund, it allowed that particular advisory committee to earmark roughly $8,800 for grants to various qualifying organizations that make application to that committee. And there is a fairly formal and structured process that applicants go through in order to make submissions to that committee. But that's where the politics comes out of the process, because it is that committee, which is comprised of ACW residents, then evaluates the requests and then makes the decision evaluating how much, what is the funding that we have available, and what is the ask from those various organizations, and then what are we able to grant to those organizations.
Okay, thank you. Follow up, please.
Yes, follow up. Two things. So I believe this model also encompasses not just funds that ACW would give, and you mentioned the fund, a rough amount of $50,000, but if this was to go forward and become a community foundation with ACW residents, there's nothing that says that, for example, on if someone were to pass away, that this could be a contribution in honor of that person that's passed away, like a benevolent sort of gift. Is that like they do for Cancer Society, the hospital, the Legion, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Am I correct in that?
That is correct. I mean, this is kind of the municipal portion of that particular committee. As I mentioned during the presentation with South Huron, there have also been family funds now that have been added to that particular group, that advisory committee, and now the composition is roughly 50% is from what was the original capital invested by the municipality, and then the balance is additional family funds that have now supplemented that by way of either donations, requests, or bequests, etc. So that's what I guess it's a launching pad for adding additional streams of revenue to come in.
Right. And one other follow-up is you mentioned this would be made up of potentially ACW residents. So can you give us an overview of how you see ACW residents becoming a part of this? Is it through financial contributions? Is it through application process? Is it appointments?
It would be really a recruitment process at this point, as far as what residents that we have here in the community that would be involved in sitting on the committee and evaluating the applications and making decisions. So it would be a recruitment, and as I said, we are very early on in the stage of recruitment at this point.
So just to follow up on that then.
And actually, I would perhaps look to council members here who are well connected within the community, and I would look to any recommendations that you would have as far as who would be good candidates to participate in this.
I guess that's where I come in, is that, I wonder if there's a mechanism in place that you recruit folks from ACW that don't have a singular vision of support. Maybe that's, well, I'll just throw it, the Dungannon Rodeo or something, if all of your recruitment are people that are, passionate about that one particular grant that we give every year, we want to make sure that we have representation from the people that do receive grants. And I guess that's where I'm coming from.
I may kind of call on one of my associates here to comment as far as the recruitment for other council or advisory committees as far as how that process has gone historically.
If you could just go to the microphone, just introduce yourself, if you would, please, Jim.
Jim Lynn. So been involved with the foundation for about 5 years now. So basically it comes from recommendations from the local council, local involved citizens, and then really it's the committee itself, or the chair of the committee to start with, that has a sit down with the individual potential participants and tries to assess and make sure it is in fact well spread across the municipality. I think your point's well taken. So we haven't had that as being an issue, frankly. It's been well spread. But I can think of one situation where there was a tendency to where it was going to be going one way, and through discussions, it became a much broader mandate.
One comment, very brief.
Yep.
Hi, Lisa Ray, I'm Executive Director for Sunset Community Foundation. For all of our committees, including our board, we have a conflict of interest when it comes stated up front at the beginning of the meetings. So if there's a vote for a grant for an organization that someone is directly involved in and or has family members directly involved with that organization, they must announce a conflict of an interest at the beginning of that meeting, and therefore they do not get option to vote. We also do not invite any political positioned individuals to any of our committees, just so there's no politics involved. And it's all stated up front, and that's part of that screening process. We educate them through confidentiality and conflict of interest.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Miltenberg, and then Deputy Mayor, please.
Yeah, I'm going to go a little broader than this. As many of you know, I was the grant writer for Kingsbridge starting with 2015, and I knew it was starting in 2015, so I started exploring grants in 2013-14. At that time, Huron County ran something in 2013 or 14 in Bayfield, and that was the only one. And since then, I have gone on my own dime to Perth County, Grey Highlands, Middlesex, Stratford, whatever that's in, London, exploring this. We are in a desert for funding from community foundations. It stops at 86, and it stops at that Lambton. Recently, they've extended the Sunset community to, you can apply further north, but only if it directly impacts Exeter, which is kind of difficult from up here. I've explored it at length. I have talked to multiple leaders of community foundations in other areas, trying to get it extended here. Community foundations is extremely, extremely helpful to small community organizations. It's much less onerous than the big funders, and a lot of funding will start at, you have to ask for 25,000, so these will give very small amounts. And there is nothing in our area, and there hasn't been, and I have been campaigning somewhat relentlessly and not very, I've had no results actually. So I was quite pleased. And I also attended that presentation at Kingsbridge and had a lot of questions. And it was my suggestion that they make this presentation here about it. And the way I see it actually helping the residents of ACW is any community foundation would help. This is the Sunset one, and I'm thrilled to support them. But they do have links to provincial funding that we don't have access to in this area. And I say that with authority and expertise. That's not an opinion, that is a fact. The other thing is, and Councillor Snowblin referenced that we do have a community granting policy. When I came on 13 years ago, we did not. And this is still in progress. You know, the council knows that every year we look at it and we go, oh, well, that isn't quite right, and we tweak it. And it's different again this year as we're trying to get it right. And it's taking staff time and it's taking council time. And every year we say we're giving 50,000, and I think we spent 70 some last year because you know, things come in and they're a good idea and they come in at the wrong time, but we still want to support them. And I see this as us giving the same amount of money, but with a lot less work for staff, and it's done correctly instead of our best guess. And it also takes the politics out of it. I'm a huge, huge supporter of Community Foundation Ontario, huge. And we are in a community foundation desert in this area, and we have been. And I cannot support this proposal enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Deputy Mayor, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. The cost, is there, what kind of a cost are we doing? Because right now the council does it here, and you know, I know what it costs us on our end, but what are the costs on your end? Is it all volunteer, or is there these people paid, or how does that work?
It is all volunteer, with the exception we have one employee, and that would be Lisa.
Okay, well, thank you. So that clarifies his
And again, I would
Councillor-
refer you to the financial statements that are online for Sunset Community Foundation, which gives a breakdown of the costs.
Okay, well, and as I said, I really appreciate that because, as Councilor Miltenberg says, like if we can take that away from here and we don't have to spend that kind of money here, then it helps. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further questions or comments? We have a request of $50,000 annually for 3 years. How would you like to handle this? Deputy Mayor, please.
I would like to see it come back to budget, and then we make a decision at that point in time. Thank you.
Okay, that's reasonable with council. Clerk, do you have any comment, or before I ask for a show of hands of that?
Just before we proceed, I think it's important to just acknowledge that this would replace the Community Benefits Fund. Just kind of, that hasn't been explicitly stated. I think that's important to necessarily state. And it's, in principle, it sounds like council is agreeable that that's how that might be the direction. So in terms of it coming forward to budget, I think the realities of that need to be articulated so that we know as staff moving forward that because our deadline for the community grants is in January for 2026, so there's an element of, you know, the cart before the horse here about what's happening for 2026. So I think it's important just to give a bit of consideration as to how that's going to proceed. So before, I agree that this is a budget item that needs to come forward, but I think we need to have, I'm going to suggest a staff report that outlines the realities of this moving forward so that council can make a decision as to whether or not to include it in the budget.
And I would stand by my original comment. If there's anything we can do to assist in the preparation of that report, please contact us.
Okay. I think that's very reasonable to have a staff report on this. Councillor Snowblin, please.
Yes, as the motion is sitting right now, I can't support it, but going back to what Clerk has said, I think that's the appropriate way to proceed, that we have a staff report. I don't know that we'd have this done before, you know, the grant policy deadline is due in January and then budget coming up in March. I would much prefer to see if council would support a staff report with an outline of how we go forward and proceed with a partnership with the Sunset Community Foundation, and we can have that in place for possibly December of 2026 so that it encompasses the grant policy and takes over the grant policy in 2027.
Okay, thank you. Clerk, please.
Yep, I think that sounds reasonable. I mean, even if it was 2026, we would see how we could manage applications coming in, and then once the money is divvied, we could even hand those applications over to the foundation, and then they can consider it them. So I think that this is worth noting in a staff report with a little bit more detail. So with that direction from council, we'll proceed.
Okay, so the sentiment is a staff report on this subject, and I'm going to ask for a show of hands. Deputy Mayor first to comment.
I'd like to take the motion back and so that it's not on the table. Because there was a motion and a second made, so we need to rescind it.
So just for the sake of a friendly amendment, if the seconder agrees that it doesn't, that it needs to be removed, you can just say so. Thank you.
Okay, so the sentiment is a staff report, and I'm going to ask for a show of hands if we're in support of this. And it's supported by council. Thank you very much, Mr. Nicholas, and to Jim and Lisa for your presentation to us today. Howbeit, we have a break, and we will recess and come back at 10:20. Thank you. Okay, we would like to resume our meeting now and move on to our Treasury Department, and the first will be 6.1, and that is the payment of the current accounts. And I would entertain a mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Vanstone, seconded by Councillor Hickey, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council hereby authorizes the payment of the December 2025 accounts as presented. Do we have any questions on any of these lines? I'll go first to Councillor Forster, please.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. I'm not sure which page it on. It's Exeter Collision. Like, does anybody know what that's for?
Could you be, oh, sorry, maybe Tom does.
Yeah, we had one of the plows clipped a pickup truck, and I thought it was just going to be the quarter panel that had to be replaced. It ended up being the box. So it's a bit more expensive than I thought it was going to be, but we priced around. That was the cheapest place to have it done. That's an operational decision.
So like the truck was sitting on the side of the road or something?
It's truck was parked and we hit it. It was our fault, and I had it fixed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on any lines? If not, all in favor of the motion is read. And that is carried. Thank you. 6.2 is the payment of the previous month's actual accounts, and I will entertain a mover and a seconder for these, please. Councillor Blake moves, Councillor Miltenberg seconds, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council hereby approves the payment of the November 2025 accounts in the amount of $1,449,982.46. Do we have any questions in any of these numbers? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. 6.3 is the summary revenue / expenditure reports, and a mover and a seconder for these would be welcome, please. Councillor Snoblin moves, Councillor Hickey seconds, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council adopts the summary revenue / expenditure reports as written for the Township, the Lucknow and District Medical Center, and the Lucknow and District Recreation from January to November 2025. Do we have any questions on any of these numbers? If not, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. 6.4 is a third-party insurance for municipal properties. We have read the report that is presented to us, and it would, and that is from Marsh, Canada. Do we have any questions on this before I would ask for a mover and a seconder? If not, a mover and a seconder for this, please. And that is Councillor Blake moves, Councillor Miltenberg seconds. The Council approved the implementation of mandatory facility user insurance requirements for all township facility rentals and authorize the addition of annual low-risk event liability program coverage through Marsh Canada Limited at a cost of $2,651 plus applicable taxes effective January 1, 2026. All in favor of the motion as read. And that is carried. Thank you. 6.5 is the 2026 insurance renewal. Do we have any questions on this? And if not, I'll entertain a mover and a seconder to accept this. And that is Deputy Mayor Vanstone moves, Councillor Snoblin seconds, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council accept the municipal insurance renewal proposal from Marsh Canada Limited for the January 1, 2026 to January 1, 2027 term in the amount of $135,078 plus applicable taxes with a 3-year long-term agreement option. All in favor of the motion is read. And that is carried. Thank you. Oh, and excuse me. And further that the treasurer be directed to execute all applicable renewal documents on behalf of the corporation of the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh. All in favor of that motion. And that is carried. Thank you. 6.6 is the fee bylaw update, and that would be for consideration in section 18 as a bylaw. Any questions or comments on this? If not, I'll just ask for a show of hands for consideration of this in section 18 as a bylaw. And that is supported by council. Thank you. We have nothing under planning today. We do have the building department chief officials report. It is for information purposes. Do we have any questions on this report? And if not, I did. I apologize. 6.7 and I apologize, is the 2026 OPP annual billing statement. It is for information purposes. Do we have any questions on this? And if not, that is for information purposes. No questions for Joy on her report. I thank you. We do have 8.2, the building fees recommendation for the changes, and that would be the council approve the update to the building permit fees with the attachment. That was very, very helpful. Thank you very much for that, Joy. And that it be brought back to council for a future meeting. Do we have any questions or comments on this? Deputy Mayor, please.
Yeah, just through the Joy, like, it's slowed down, our building, because of the bluffs and a whole bunch of other stuff. Like, how much has it slowed down? Like 80%?
Thank you for the question. Joy, please.
If you refer to the charts in the third page, I believe, that'll show you what the up and down. I don't have an 80% number per se prepared for today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I did see the chart, but I just was wondering, we only have Salford coming on that I know of through, for more housing. So I was just wondering, what you saw. I guess I'm asking you if you have a crystal ball and can see into the future, but you can't.
We are also working on other developments up in Port Albert as well for bringing more housing to the community.
Thank you for that. Councillor Snowden, please.
I'm conflicted with this proposal, and I'll tell you why. I do support in theory that you have to have some reserves, you have to have money in the bank, you have to be able to have a little cushion, particular in any part of the budget. So that's not a problem for me. The problem for me is that I just think that we're going into some hard times here, and we've had really good times in terms of the building department over the last 3, 4, 5 years. The cost of borrowing money was fairly achievable for farmers that were building bigger barns and sheds and so on, and increasing their production, that sort of thing. And in terms of houses, we saw a great surge in Port Albert over the last, I'm going to say 7, 8 years. And we hope to see a big surge in Salford with the proposed subdivision there. But I don't think that we're in for financially great times in the next 2 to 3 years. So I'm conflicted with increasing these fees, but I'm also conflicted with having a 3-year cushion, I think, that you talked about in this. So is there a way that you think your department could get by with like a 1-year cushion, and maybe hold off on the fees for another year, or defer them somehow, or reduce what you've proposed? I'm willing to negotiate on this, but the way it stands right now, I really have a hard time supporting this.
Okay, thanks for the comment. Joy, please.
The reason for the fee increase is not to impact every individual taxpayer in the community. It is to impact those who are currently building to reflect what it costs us to do bigger, more individual custom projects. The rates as they were able to be spread across 6 years because we did a lot of, 5 different plans. It wasn't a whole lot of extra time for staff to process those permits or do the inspections. We have to look at there's going to be increased cost for the department as we go into more custom projects. That would be my meaning for that. The buffer is going to be to final off all these projects. The buffer, or the reserve fund, is going to be for filing off all the projects that we have done in the past. And that is what that will go towards.
Okay, thank you for that. Follow up, Councillor Snowden, please. CAO?
To just sum up what Joy just said is that we've collected the fees, but the the end of the permit stage hasn't happened yet. So we may have revenues now that look good, but we haven't had the staff resources to finish all these permits out, and the permits are going down. So, and Joy, just please speak up a little louder so everyone can hear. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Snowden, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, does it have to be the 3-year buffer, is what I'm saying?
Joy, please.
It is said that it is best policy. Currently, we do not have that, and that won't completely build that whole 3-year buffer up at this time.
Okay, thank you for that.
To
please.
To answer Anita's question is that, no, it doesn't have to be. We can and we could revisit this next year if you want. Like, we can go ahead with the proposal, and I think Joy's proposal was, haven't read it since last week, CPI every year. So we could go ahead with the proposal now and just review it in a year if you like.
Councillor Snowden, please.
Well, I don't know, like in a year from now, it could be a whole new council, you know, and would they have the background to be able to disseminate all that information? So, you know, I would support maybe with a little bit less on the fees somehow, if there was a way to come down on that. I'm not saying no increase, I'm just saying if there's a way to come down on that a little bit, and just make it a little more palatable to taxpayers.
Okay, CAO, please.
That's why we're increasing the fees, so it doesn't fall back on the taxpayers. Because what this is a user pay system. It's supposed to be revenue neutral. So those folks that are interested in building a new home or sheds or what else it may do, they have to pay for that service. So it's not the same person. So if you're lucky to build a new house every year, that's great. But most people getting a building permit, I'm going to use a house as an example, or it only happens a few times in your lifetime. So it's not, you're not dinging the same taxpayer every time. It's a different individual. It's not the dinging isn't the proper word, but you're paying the permit fee. So it's not, and Jennifer's laughing at my dinging part. So just be mindful, if we don't increase fees, and in years from now, because the permits are declining, we're going to have to put in taxpayers' dollars, and we don't want to do that, and we don't want to then increase fees really high. Then what we're doing is proposing the proposal now, because I think it's 2020, if I recall from the report, the fees were last updated. Let's start implementing and bring the building them back up, because we won't have the permits, or we may or may not have the permits like we did before, because the bluffs has come to an end.
Yes, it's very important to stay current. Councillor Snowden, please.
I totally understand that. I understand it's user pay. I'm having a problem with the 3-year buffer. That's where I'm having a problem with. Is it not in your report, the 3-year buffer? I'm trying to look at it just quickly. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong in your report, I think in your report you said that's an industry standard that you should have a 3-year buffer. And I don't propose to know where to look on that, but I did look through the internet to find out where it says that you need to have a 3-year buffer on these things, and I couldn't find it. So I'm sure, you know, in your industry, you know all the places to look. I'm not in that industry, so I probably don't know where to look. So that's why I'm questioning it. Why all of a sudden a 3-year? And I understand you don't want to ever get behind. I understand it's been 5 years. I understand that we can't go back to the taxpayers if we don't do this. But I'm just asking, does it have to be this amount? And does it have to be now?
Okay, I will defer to staff, please. CAO.
Joy, I'm trying to find this buffer word. I don't see the word buffer anywhere in your report. Can you just, I don't know. I'm looking for it, and I want to address it if I can't. I don't see any word buffer.
Yes, please, Joy.
If we look at the second page of the report, I believe that was, the reserve fund will cover about 2 years of operating expenses during cyclical lows in the building industry. Best practice is maintain reserves sufficient for 3 years of operating expenses. So I want to highlight, right now, we have approximately the 2 years. We are going to be going and spending that. This raising the fees will not be adding to that at this point. We are going to be using that. It is going to be depleting as we go through this cyclical low. But going forward in future years, we should be allowing it to get back up to that 3-year. It won't happen this year, and it probably won't happen next year that we get up to that 3 years.
Thank you for that explanation. That does clarify things a lot more for me, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, I'd like to support this, and I'm going to use the water rates as an example of a user pay situation. When I came on council, however many decades ago it seems like, you get a report every 4 years and what the increase should be to have the correct buffer or reserves fund. And the council at the time and the previous council did not want to take that recommendation because they felt it was too onerous because we were going through hard times, which if you're in a farming community, it feels like we're always going through hard times. And at that point, it was a 6% or 8%, and they didn't want to take it. And now it's at 15. We had to take a 15% because we were too easy. I guess, I wasn't on council and I argued against that. But the user pay system, to make up for not having that reserve system, really had to pay a lot and like double the rate. It was at like 700 something when I started, and it's over 1,500 now. And it's because we didn't want to take the tough decision to say you have to pay now. You have to have user pay. And what I'm hearing is best practice is 3 years, and we have a 2-year, and this maintains the 2 years. So I'm happy to support it, and if it needs a motion, I'd like to make it.
I will, thank you for that. I will just ask for a show of hands if we are in support of this to come back to a future meeting. Opposed? And that is supported by the majority of council. Thank you. CAO?
So when it does come back to council, we'll bring it back as a fee bylaw amendment, and we have to, I think it's, if I pull this out of my head, 21 days notice, we have to give the public that we're considering these fees, so that'll give us enough time that it'll come back to January. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 8.3 is the Community On-Site Septic Inspection Program update for information purposes. Do we have any questions on this? And I will go first to Councillor Hickey and then Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question for staff. In the report, it talks about the inspection attempt results, and we see that. What happened at the inspection? Was there issues with systems? Are we finding issues? What are we finding with the inspections? Thank you.
Thank you. Joy, please.
Currently, we only have numbers for those attempts. We are working on getting numbers for deficiencies and resolutions for this year.
Follow-up, Councillor Hickey, please.
So I assume that'll come back in another report early in the new year then?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, please. Oh, CEO, did you have a comment?
Just to clarify, Joyce, so that'll be in part of your annual report that you're bringing forward. Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, please.
Yeah, okay, and Evan asked exactly what I was going to ask is, like, you know, I don't see any deficiencies on here, and you know, so I'm almost wondering why we're doing it if we're not finding any problems. So I'll look forward to your report. Thank you.
No, we are finding deficiencies. We just said the report is coming into the new year for the year-end report.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Forrester, please.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. It says one refused, like, so what became of that then? They didn't get inspected, or?
Okay, thank you. Joy, please.
We did not complete an inspection there.
So he will have to get inspected someday, or he or she, or whatever?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions or comments? This is for information purposes. Under administration, 9.1 is the local school board trustees, and I will defer to Councillor Blake. I believe this was your sentiment for discussion, please.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not too sure how familiar my fellow councillors are with the situation. The Minister of Education came out a month or within 2 months ago and discussed, because there was some trouble with some of the larger school boards and the trustees on them, the possible elimination of the elected school board trustees. Today I'd like to ask for council support in sending a letter to our local MPs, the Minister of Education, and Huron County to support the status quo with regards to keeping elected school board trustees as a part of the school boards. Excuse me. And just as a little a fact as well, elected school board trustees are the oldest form of democracy in Canada, just so people are aware. Thank you.
On that sentiment, would you include the Premier in that also?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Snowblin, please.
I fully support Councillor Blake's initiative on that, and I would second his motion. As a former school board trustee for 28 years, I do see the importance of the democratic process at the school board level. Thank you for bringing that forward.
Okay, we have a motion that has been moved by Councillor Blake and seconded by Councillor Snoblin. Clerk, would you read the motion, please?
I'm going to summarize it, if you wouldn't mind sending that to me, if that's okay. But the motion is to draft a letter to the government to support the status quo of the school board system as it stands, with the noted ministries as you stated. So, if you wouldn't mind sending that to me, Curtis, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, I can do that for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of a motion on this? And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Blake. 9.2 is the accessibility plans, that it is an update for consideration. Do you have any questions on this? And if not, I would ask for a mover and a seconder for the adoption of this. And that is moved by Councillor Snoblin, seconded by Councillor Miltenberg, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council adopts the 2026 Annual Accessibility Plan Update. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. 9.3 is the North Huron Fire Agreement Extension, and it would be the sentiment to approve the extension with a motion, and I will entertain a mover and a seconder for this. Councillor Miltenberg moves, Deputy Mayor Vanstone seconds, that the Council of the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh hereby agrees to extend the existing fire service agreement with North Huron under the same terms for a 3-month period, excuse me, ending March 31, 2026. All in favor of this motion?
Question to the staff. Do we have council representation on the North Huron Fire Board?
No.
Is there a reason for that? Or is it just because we don't have that much financial contribution?
Yeah, it's a very small area. We've never had a say on there. We pay as per, I'm pulling this out of my head. Assessment, I think. It's based on assessment, and we just pay so much of the share of the deficit based on assessment.
And staff is comfortable with that?
Yes, we've had this in place for a number of years. It's the same as Goderich. I know Goderich meets periodically, but yeah, we don't have a chair at the North Huron Fire.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to enter into a fire agreement for the period ending March 31, 2026, and I will ask for a show of hands if we're in support of this. And that is carried. Thank you. Under our water department, we have the Veolia report. It is for information purposes. Do we have any questions on this? Seeing none, the Smith Municipal Drain Levying Bylaw has been completed, and this would enable the invoices to be sent out. And I will ask, do you have a question or comment, please, Councillor Hickey?
Just a question. It might just be a formality, but I know the one property has sold, and the old owner's name is on this bylaw. Does that need to be updated before we show hands, or just?
Clerk, please, and thank you.
So the report itself was adopted. Drainage goes with the property. It doesn't go with the owner's name. So as long as the property itself doesn't change, then we don't need to change it. So we issue maintenance on drains that are 40 years old that have different names on them. We just issue it to the property, not to the landowner. So we will issue the invoice to the property.
Okay. So I will ask for a show of hands if we were in support of consideration of this in Section 18 as a bylaw. And that is carried. Thank you. Under Public Works is the Nile Road Bridge Tender Award. We have read the report from our Public Works Superintendent of the one bid that was provided, number of interests and only one bid, and I will entertain a mover and a seconder and then open it up to any further discussion. Moved by Councillor Snoblin, seconded by Councillor Miltenberg. The council accept the bid for the Nile Road Bridge from Vandriel Excavating in the amount of $473,292.32, inclusive of HST. Questions, comments? All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Public Works appointments, Public Works employee appointments. Any questions on this? And if not, I will ask for a show of hands for consideration of this in Section 18 as a bylaw. And that is supported. Okay, go ahead with your question, please.
I noticed there's a few part-timers hired here. I mean, I take it that's not enough. And how many more would you need to make things run more smoothly, or?
Okay, Tom, please.
If you're sitting at home watching this on TV or listening in any way, you can reach me at pws@acwtownship.com and submit your resume. .ca. I've hopefully got another couple guys coming in this week. It's harder and harder every year, and it's extremely hard to get guys with a license and experience. We've got several brand new operators this year, and a lot of the guys coming in, it's their first year plowing, so we appreciate everyone's patience with this process, and we're doing the best we can. And again, if you've got a license and want to come and talk to me, by all means.
Okay, but so like 5, 10, or?
We'll talk to anybody that comes in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, CAO, please.
The issue isn't how many part-timers you have, because I think we could have, we could have used an extra one yesterday because we had someone call in sick, but it's hard to find. You can't just have a part-time that's ready, available 24/7. A lot of our part-timers can only come in on weekends. Some of these guys can only come in during the week, so it's not like they can come in 24/7, 7 days a week. You know, it's like the last 2 we hired can only work on Saturdays and Sundays, so it's very difficult. The more, the better.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. And we had a show of hands for that. Yep, we're good. Council committee reports. Do any members of council have any committee reports that they would like to share at this time? And I'll go first to Councillor Snoblin and then Councillor Forster.
Thank you very much. Yesterday I attended by Zoom Goderich Fire Board meeting. We passed the budget at that point, and it'll come forward, I'm sure, in a more formalized fashion, but the ACW portion on that budget will be sitting at around $347,000, and I'm sure that the staff will be making a more formalized submission to council at a future date.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Forster, please.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. I left my notes at home, so this will be short and brief. On Monday of last week, I attended doctor recruitment. It was mainly about, he's a foreign doctor that Wingham has hired on, and talking about, what do you call that? He gets an incentive. We were mainly about that. And CHIP meeting on Wednesday, ATV maps will be coming here in the springtime when we have a meeting, and other than that, that's all I can remember. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other committee reports? On behalf of council, I did attend the Lucknow Silver Stick opening ceremonies on the 5th of December in Lucknow. Great tournament. Volunteers do a great job, and there's certainly a lot of youth involved in that tournament. Last Saturday was the grand opening for the Minnesota Bridge. It was held in the center of the bridge about 10 o'clock in the morning, probably 50 click winds. And it was quite cool. There was no skeeters about, and the Minnesota Bridge group certainly appreciated the support of ACW and the town of Goderich. We had equal support for that because it runs through our respective municipalities. With that, is there any new business that anyone would like to bring forward to a future meeting? And if not, we have no correspondence for direction. 2 items of correspondence for information. Any questions or comments on that? Under unfinished business, the Roma Conference, Councillors Hickey, Miltenberg, Snoblin, and myself are registered for that, and Councillor Forster and myself for the OGRA Conference. We will move to our bylaws, and the first will be the Smith Municipal Drain Levying Bylaw, and I will entertain a mover and a seconder for this, please. Deputy Mayor Vanstone moves. Councillor Blake seconds that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 70-2025, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 29, 2025, being a bylaw to provide for improvement to a municipal drain known as the Smith Municipal Drain in the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh, and to provide for the levying of costs, and then it now be read severally a first, second, and third time, and finally passed the 16th day of December 2025. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. 18.2 is a consolidated fee bylaw, and a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Forrester moves, Councillor Miltenberg seconds, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 71-2025, being a bylaw to set various fees for the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh, and then it now be read severally a first, second, and third time, and finally passed the 16th day of December 2025. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. The appointment of the Public Works employees, a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Blake moves, Deputy Mayor Vanstone seconds. The leave be given to introduce bylaw number 72-2025, being a bylaw to appoint Public Works positions for the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh, and then it now be read severally a first, second, and third time, and finally pass the 16th day of December 2025. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. We do have a closed session today, so I will entertain a mover and seconder to move into our closed session. Councillor Miltenberg moves, Councillor Hickey seconds, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council move into a closed session in accordance with Section 239 in brackets 2 and brackets E of the Municipal Act, with the CAO and clerk remaining in attendance at 10:49 a.m. for the purpose of discussing litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality, being the Ontario Land Tribunal, Lobel, Sand and Gravel. All in favor of this motion is read. And that is carried. Howbeit we give our clerk 6 minutes to secure the meeting, and we will resume at 10:50. Thank you. We're now in recess. Thank you to all for attending. And I will call on our clerk for reporting out of our closed session, please.
There is nothing to report.
Thank you. We do have the confirmatory bylaw, and I will entertain a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Deputy Mayor Vanstone moves. Councillor Miltenberg seconds that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 73-2025, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Council meeting held on December 16th, 2025, and then now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally passed the 16th day of December 2025. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. And a motion to adjourn, if you would please. Councillor Forrester and seconder by Councillor Blake, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council does now adjourn to meet again on the 13th day of January 2026 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the mayor. All in favor of this motion? That is carried. The meeting is adjourned, and Merry Christmas to all.
Merry Christmas, everyone.